They thought the tease was the most important thing. We had a whole thing called the TBU, the tease and bump unit. And then when we go to commercial, you have to make the bump a question or a controversy so we can retain viewership for another 37 seconds.
Why are we lying to people on these bumps and teases? Why don't we just do a good show? Show is our only priority. And if we do a good show, people who watched it will go, that was good. I want to see that the next time those two idiots are, right? Like, that's the best way to win.
So the reason I interjected that is because
you'll never guess what Cam Newton said. You know, like,
exactly.
No, I can guess.
Hey, everybody, what's up? Trey Wingo here. Welcome into another edition of the podcast we like to call Straight Facts, Homie. No arguments, no debates, no bullshit, just ball. We are not going to yell at you. We're not going to scream at you. We're not going to tell you about our feelings. We're going to present sports in an informational and statistical driven way that'll make you smarter as a sports fan. And thank you for being here. And if you like what you've seen so far through the episodes, please do us a favor. Click on that like and subscribe button wherever you get your podcasts, or if you're watching on YouTube, do that the same. And we'll all be happy in the long run because we'll be able to do this for a long, long, long time. So we have a thing on this show called Trusted Voices, where we bring in somebody in the sports business, whether it's a player, a coach, general manager, whomever, that I believe is a trusted voice. This next voice we're pushing the boundaries, but I love them because I've never had more fun at work than I had when I was doing Sports Centers with our next guest, Kenny Mayne.
Also, I'm low on battery. In the middle, I may transfer to the kitchen. We don't know. We'll find out.
And that's how we start the episode. So this is, I normally, Kenny, I have a lot of structure. I want to bring in, when I have a guest, I prepare all these questions and I have all this stuff. That was never going to work for us today. So I didn't even try. I didn't bother. I am not a jealous person for the most part. I think my life is pretty good. And then I looked on Instagram and saw you playing the old course in Scotland with your new podmates, Cooper Manning, Brian Baumgartner, and other people. And I was incredibly jealous. I just wanted you to know that.
How's my lighting?
You're a little backlit, but that's okay because it takes away from some of the the surface tension.
Yeah, but you're okay with it. We don't need to, because Cooper Manning is very funny. We'll tape an episode, remotely. We're all on Riverside or whatever, QuickTime, all that stupid stuff, and he will give notes. Hey, Kenny, you need to be close to the camera. It looks unprofessional when you're leaning. I was like, oh, okay. Well, your backlighting sucks, Cooper. And also, why did you wear a Western cowboy outfit today? Like, he showed up one time, and we are talking about our podcast, We Need a Fourth. Cooper literally showed up like a little child who was sent to school on Western Pioneer Day by his mom. Like, what are you doing? He makes fun of me because I'll wear like a T-shirt like this or a Don James throwback or something. Yeah. But we're having fun. And the funny thing is, the Scotland trip you referred to was the first time we'd all been together. We'd taped a couple things, but I'd never met Brian. Oh, actually, I take it back. I might have met him for like a quarter of a second at some point in our life, but I don't think that's even true. I'm thinking of somebody else. But Cooper, I knew, and we said, hey, let's go to Scotland. Okay, I'll go to Scotland. When, it was amazing. We played Jubilee. We played the old course. We played the castle course. And Brian's pretty good. Cooper's good. I won't say pretty good, just good. And then I'm the Jameis Winston of golf. I am.
No.
And I love Jameis Winston.
I love Jameis too. You're a 30-30 guy. There's no question. You're going to have 30 great shots
there I am.
And 30 others. So,
dude,
by the way.
I'm sorry. Yesterday.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. We're talking over each other. Yesterday, I'm invited to play golf last minute, and I think I might have texted you this. I went to the wrong golf course. So I went to Keeney Park in Hartford. I was supposed to go to Stanley, Keeney, kind of sound the same. And I order a sandwich. I'm going to stretch. I got to get my leg brace on. I'm going to hit some balls. And then I go to pay, and they said, what time again? 1:40, Deaver or Evan? No, nobody. And I look at the tech. I'm supposed to be at Stanley. I have 29 minutes to travel 18 miles or whatever it was. I got there with 7 minutes, just came up cold, pulling my back muscles immediately. But I shot 9 pars on an 18-hole round, 9 par for real, legit pars. And guess what my score was?
I'm going to say 91.
You're right.
That's because you texted me.
Maybe I told you. A
You
meltdown
told me, so of course
on
I'm
the
going to
others.
guess the right number.
You know what? That was like the pre-interview material. I was trying to be set up
Okay.
for that story. All right, let's
Well,
go
actually,
then.
no, we're not. This is perfect. This is exactly how this has to go. I can actually top that story.
All the way.
A couple of years ago, I do this annual college buddies trip. We've been doing it for 15 years now. It's awesome. There's 7 of us. We go every year. The first year, we were going to Kiowa Island in South Carolina. And, you know, everyone booked their flights into Charleston, blah, 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 blah. They're getting here, and they're slowly coming in one at a time. I get a text from one of the group named Kyle, and he said, "Oh, no." And I'm like, "What?" "I booked to Charlotte, not to Charleston." He flew to the wrong state. And then he had like a 6-hour drive. So he missed a whole day. So the fact that you made it from Stanley or Keeney to Stanley or Stanley to Keeney in
I did.
22 minutes,
Well,
much better.
do we have time for a Charlie Gerhardt funeral story as long as we're in that same? So he was my basketball coach in high school. I sucked at basketball. He was also an assistant football coach. So his family reached out to me and told me he had asked would I speak at his memorial and before he passed. And I said, of course, if I can get out to Seattle, and I happened to be out there. And so I was going to do some remarks and tell some funny stories about old Charlie. And I go to the school, they're going to have it at the high school, and I get there like 40 minutes early. I wanted to be on time. And I wasn't writing a speech. I just wrote a couple notes, make sure to tell this story, that story. And I text the son. I say, "Hey, I don't see very many people here. Was this thing not going to be very big?" He said, No, people are coming in. I said, "Okay, cool." I said, "I don't see any cars. Like, did you guys park on the far side up by the street?" "Oh, yeah, most people parked over there." So I'm writing notes. I walk up to the building. It's all locked up. I had gone to the wrong high school. The funeral ceremony, whatever time it is, it's starting in half an hour. And I realized he coached at my school, which was in the Federal Way School District. That's the south of Seattle. He's in Olympia, the state capital, which is about at best a 45 if you're just breaking laws. With traffic, it could be worse. So he was also my driver's ed instructor. I'm driving like 300 miles. I'm Dale Earnhardt knocking people out of the way. I said, play more music. Don't start. But they start without me. I come walking in late, like 20 minutes late. Everybody turns to see the door open. He waves me, just go up. I said, look, I was pissed at you guys for not showing up, because what kind of respect is that for Charles? Yeah, it was pretty bad. But that's my Charlie Gerhardt story. Shout out Charlie Gerhardt.
We all need a Charlie Gerhardt story. And by the way, this whole thing is why they stopped letting us do SportsCenter together. Okay, we'll get into all kinds of stuff, but like for years, Kenny and I did the overnight SportsCenter, but when it was in Bristol, Connecticut, before they built all the studios, which they're now closing. Great idea, guys. So before SportsCenter was in Los Angeles, before there was SportsCenter in the morning, the 2 a.m. SportsCenter was the thing that ran all night long. And we had to be there until all the games were over. So the worst thing you ever wanted to hear was rain delay at Dodger Stadium, because then you're like, fuck, we're going to be here till 4 a.m. So you do the show from 2 to 3 when supposedly all the games are over. But because it re-airs literally from 3 a.m. until 1 o'clock in the afternoon the next day, it's on constantly. So it's a good thing because it's the maximum exposure you can get because it's on all the time. But everything had to be right. You know, you had to get everything right. You had to time it, all this kind of stuff. And whenever you'd make a mistake, they would yell in your ear, "Fix." So we're going to have to fix that for the re-airs. We have to redo it, so we're going to have to be here longer. Well, you are just a walking non sequitur, for lack of a better term. Like, you are like free verse poetry in every aspect of your life. There's no iambic pentameter. There's no rhythm. It's just this is where we're going. And I couldn't handle that. So I started laughing all the time, and the producers would get so angry at me because I couldn't get through a segment without cracking up. And I would keep us there, I'd say 30 minutes longer than we needed to be. And everyone hated me by the time the show was over. But it was your fucking fault, man.
especially if you did like 4 days in a row or 5 days, like where
Yeah.
you didn't get that middle day free.
Yeah.
You're just hanging on by. It's like the scene in Jerry Maguire where Cuba Gooding says, "You're hanging on by a thread, man."
Yeah.
And that was like
Yeah.
every night, and it was fun to make other people. Linda Cohn was easy. I owned her. Just
Yeah.
say 2 words and she's like falling apart. And we also we were not using the technology they have now. Now, when you mess up a name or say 19 and it was 18 or the score was wrong, they'll take it in those 3 or 4 minute commercial breaks. Hey, just say the word. One word, we'll
18.
slip it in.
Yeah.
We were using old school, like 2-inch tape. There's a person in the back room, and we had to be. Here's the end point. Here, you have 9 seconds to say it right, And if you didn't, you did it over. Then, now the show might be repeating, and you might have to do it live inside the next show because that was the only way. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
it was something. And so when we did Main Street, the little comedy show with Aubrey Plaza and Alison Becker and John Glazer, Ben Schwartz, all those guys, the Van Pelt episode was the first one, and it was probably the funniest one. It was called
It was
Fixes.
hilarious. Yeah.
It's on the internet. Google Main Street Fixes, and it's the story of me completely wrecking a show because I can't say Rafa Nadal correctly, and Van Pelt hates me, and his marriage is breaking up, and all pretty true. Not Scott's marriage, that's fine. I mean, the intensity, the punch drunkenness, like it was a thing. Then they moved us to the 6 o'clock.
Yeah, and then they thought, okay, we like the two of you together, but we can't have everybody there till 5 o'clock in the morning every night. So then they moved us to the 6 o'clock show, and that was better. Although the thing, what we used to do, first of all, it's so stupid, right? I mean, I think I don't know. I haven't been in the building except for a guest pass for a show I did last December in years. But we used to have a production meeting for our 6 o'clock Sports Center at 10 a.m. Like, that was the stupidest thing in the world. First of all, it's 8 hours before the show, and whatever we think about in the 10 o'clock meeting, a million things are going to change by the time we're on the air at 6. So why are we starting at 10? Like, it made no sense.
We might. You're leading to just how boring it was too. Like, I could write that show, you could as well, pretty quick, right? I mean, there was a serious story. We took it seriously and we did the right journalism, but most of it was the Cubs are playing the Reds. One of them's won 12 in a row. Let's go the highlight or whatever, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And the 6 o'clock show sucked in that sense because you only had like day baseball maybe a few times. There wasn't much activity. You're mostly doing looking ahead or looking
first
behind.
round PGA Tour event,
Yeah. Seniors, these are seniors, but they're active seniors. Here's Thursday play, that kind of thing. So, and Chris McKendry, it was kind of an evolving thing. There was also a time where it was you two at the front desk, and I was the side guy doing a silly story and joining you guys for top plays, whatever. And we would go to the 10 o'clock meeting, not make a lot of remarks that really had anything to do to help the show, and then we'd go play 9 holes with Chris McKendry at this little Pine Valley or whatever it was called.
Not the Pine Valley, but the Pine Valley Golf Course in Bristol, Connecticut. A very different experience.
Yeah. So you'd go in and you'd bang out a couple lead-ins to like a feature story. Good, those are out of the way, and I'll come back and do the rest of the show. We play 9 holes, have some lunch. Now it's 2 o'clock, and we're still bored because now we're done writing at 3 o'clock, and we got 3 hours to Google the internet if we even knew what that was. But remember when we made up we said, let's juice the show up. Let's have sort of a bonus thing that could be different than what we've been doing. Yeah. And it was, we kept on battling back and forth. What are we going to call it? And one of us just, what if we call it Things That Happened?
Yeah, I said
things that happened. Things that occurred.
Stuff that occurred, yeah.
and it was going to be...
Yeah.
We never ran it because it was going to be sort of a parody of sports television, but still get the info out, but do it kind of silly. The day they were finally going to let us do it, like 11 things happened. 2 notable people died. 3 coaches were fired,
traded,
probably an earthquake somewhere, and it never happened. It was a little bit like when I did the takeoff on the ESPYs with Epstein, Mike Epstein, Epi, and his nickname was Epi. So inside joke, he would be the host of the Eppies, and it got killed by Norby for not being reverential enough about the ESPYs, because at the time the ESPYs, they were kind of corny. They were like, whoever showed up would win it. If
Would win an
Griffey
award.
wins,
Yeah.
he showed.
Yeah.
They kind of like figured out who was in the house, and then ESPYs became a pretty cool thing, and it is what it is now. But we did a takeoff on the ESPYs that no one thought was a good idea, and it got killed.
Yeah. Well, along those lines, you got to tell the story of the time that the ESPYs were in Radio City early on, and you did the soccer celebration across the stage, and they almost lost their minds. How angry they were at you.
Well, there's way more to the story than me being an idiot, which I was in a commercial, the This Is Sports Center commercials, and remember how some of like the Dutch players after a goal, they'd slide and end up on their elbow, like it was a thing. And so I was in a commercial with Alexi Lalas, and we did that thing, and it was on the air all the time. So I feel like I have a captive, they're going to get that joke. What happened going in was, it was Dan Patrick and me and the guys from Sports Night, right? The show, the Aaron Sorkin show.
ABC, yeah.
And the premise was going to be that they're on stage stealing our material, and me and Dan are mad, so we're going to shoot them. Okay. And they literally brought fake guns and a little dot, little red dot, and it was going to you'd see it on their body. We were going to pre-tape this, run it back on the live show, right? And I'm like, I don't think that's good. I don't think we should be seen even pretending. Yeah. It's just not right. Pretending to do a violent thing. There's people that could have died the night, but it just wasn't the right thing. And so I objected, and there was this big, pre-show, like, come on, man, there's a funny skit. They're Hollywood writers. I said, I don't want to do it. I don't think it's the right thing to do. And Dan agreed. So then they came up with, what about this? We'll have other guys hold the guns, and you guys are near them. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. Why am I even complicit in this? Yeah. They're stealing Dan's jokes anyway. This whole thing doesn't make sense to me. Yeah. So we tape it. They run it. Now it's time to go out, and it was time for revenge. And I'm like, well, I'm just going to completely fuck around then, because you guys ran that stupid thing. So I slid across the stage. I gave a shout-out, a clenched fist shout-out to my brothers from ESPN News. I will bring you back shrimp from the post-party. Burt Reynolds told me it was great. So I'll take that all the way.
Yeah, I take his opinion over the people that objected, who will remain nameless.
Well, I told him, I said, well, what if how come only half the audience got it? He says, fuck the audience. You do what's in your heart.
Hey, if that comes from Burt Reynolds, man, you got to fucking take it. Okay? I mean, that's the way to go.
Afterward, I do remember somebody saying, hey, that little stupid stunt of yours cost us 2 minutes. And I said, well, if you would have killed your terrible skit, you'd be back on time. But anyway, so I wasn't invited back to that.
Well, I was invited to the ESPYs one time, okay? And it was when they were out in L.A., and you go out there because there's a huge golf tournament for him, which is really what I wanted to do. I wanted to go play in the golf tournament. So I went out to check in, and you get your stuff, and you get it, you get to, here's your this for that, here's this for that, here's the time for this, here's your goodie bag, we have a gifting suite downstairs, and by the way, here are your 2 tickets to the ESPYs. I'm like, I'm not going to that. You can give those to somebody else. And they did not take kindly to the fact that I did not want to have any part of participating in the actual event. I was just there for the golf. I was never invited back after that either. So I think we pissed off the same people.
I don't blame you. Well, it's funny, when you tell these stories, and a lot of people who used to work there tell stories, and, we just interviewed Rich Eisen telling stories, and it's truly, from my perspective, no malice. It's more like the bad stories are the funnier stories, the things you hang on to. And I loved my time there. I love the relationships I made. I got a lot of friends still there. I hope they do well. Like, I still watch, we had our time there, and now we're doing other stuff. Like, that's good. Correct. Everybody did what they did.
So, but we need to explain the shout out to the ESPN News thing, because there was a definite, caste system at ESPN.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, they let you know from the moment you walked in whether they thought you were any good or they thought you were just an innings eater, right? Or you were low on the totem pole. They used to have the thing called the schedule that would come out, and it would tell you, what shows you were doing. Are you on Baseball Tonight? Are you on NFL Live? Are you on Sports Center? Are you doing Kenny's Wider World of Sports? Whatever, all the shows, Sports Center, all this kind of stuff. And they broke it down into 2 lists. The top list was alphabetical of everyone that was mainly on SportsCenter or one of these other signature shows. And then a second list was put out with mostly the guys that hosted ESPN News. And the ESPN News shifts from 8 to 10, 4 to 7, 1 to 3, and so there was the A list guys, and then below that was the ESPN News guys. And every time you got the schedule, you just looked and you're like, God, what does it take to be on that side of the schedule? It was like a reward if you got on the higher chart. And I remember going to Vince, who was one of my all-time favorite ESPN executives, Vince Doria. I said, Vince, this is so pointless. You're just making people feel bad because you want to. Can't we just put everybody together alphabetically, and then someone doesn't look at the schedule and feel like, I'm on the junior varsity here?
Right. And the ESPN News, I only did it a couple times. Me and Tarico did one early. I think I did another, but remember Bill Pito, he'd call it the box, because if you knew the configuration, there was this old newsroom, and then the far side of it, there was this glass, and that's where they did it with the newsroom as the backdrop. I'm going into the box.
Please don't feed the animals. Yeah.
And some people, it was like anything else. You graduate from whatever they think you are. I remember being told, have no aspirations of ever being on SportsCenter. You work for ESPN2. And that was back when, the whole story to that is funny because when ESPN2 started, they rolled out the show called Sports Night. And it was going to be like SportsCenter for people who are stoned. That was kind of, I think, what they were going for.
Well, that was the Magic 8-Ball jacket with Keith, right?
Yeah. They're still covering all the standard sports, but we're also going to do some other sports that, most people don't pay as much attention to, right? Bungee jumping, whatever. And so it was Susie Kolber and Keith Olbermann at the front. The backup people were Stuart Scott, Bill Pito, and Deb Kaufman. And they did what was called the Smash.
The Smash.
And I wasn't there yet. Okay. I was second wave. So Keith went back to Dan on Channel 1. Stuart moved up to be next to Susie, and they needed one more guy, and they hired me. I was selling long distance for MCI at the time in Seattle. So that's, just a natural path to network television. You want to sell some long distance, save people money on cost per minute. And I was freelancing for like 4 years trying to get to ESPN. Only ESPN. I was like really stupid, didn't try any other stations.
This is really important, okay, because people think there's a system in place and it's an organized process. It's not. Like you literally sent in tapes with cover letters to the Al Jaffe, who was at that time the talent coordinator. Yeah. How many times?
Well, it all started with I worked at the Seattle station as a gopher, moved up to a producer, moved up to a writer, and then finally got on TV, right? And I wanted to be more like serious news, believe it or not. People won't buy that, but you and I talk all the time on the side about other more important things than this show. And that was where, I'd always studied history and politics, and that was where my head was. But I got the opportunity to do local sports because we had a 5-day newscast. It was the 10 o'clock news, an hour ahead of the rest. Good looking 11, KST Washington. And we always joked, if there's news on the weekends, it's news to us. That was our inside joke about our station, right? Little small indie station, right? We showed MASH. That was our thing. They had a weekend show. I played football, so now I'm doing sports, right? And the 1989 Super Bowl, Joe Montana to John Taylor, left to right post to beat the Bengals. John Candy on the sideline, the whole thing, right?
2016, the final
I did
score,
a really
Jerry
good
Rice, your MVP. Yeah.
Yep. I was very proud of my little 5-minute local sports that night. I just took a flyer and said, I'm going to send this tape to ESPN and see what happens. I sent it to the wrong guy, actually. I just knew a name out there. And he sends it to Al Jaffe. Jaffe calls and says, that was pretty good tape. We want to see if that was a fluke. Send me another tape. So I sent him my next best show, whatever that was. I go back for the interview. This is 1989, 90, somewhere in that range. And I don't get hired. I somehow decide to quit that local job because I was standing up to the man. It's a long story, not time here. And now I have no job. I just quit a TV job, but ESPN knows who I am. Right? I was a little full of myself about that probably. Next job I had was making garbage cans because I used to be a garbage man. Then I sold prepaid legal insurance Then I got on with MCI. So for like 3 years, I held these various jobs paying the Honda bill and, whatever I had to pay, while freelancing. Anytime ESPN would call, they would call me, hey, go interview Gary Payton, go do this, go get Griffey. And I was kind of like their Seattle correspondent, but I had no job, right?
Right.
Years go by, and I'm kind of giving up, like, are they ever going to, do this? So I sent John Walsh a letter, John Walsh, the exalted leader of ESPN, or one of them. And I said, John, please check the appropriate box. I'm trying to determine my future. And the first box said, stand by the mailbox, contract's on the way. Second one said, keep up the freelance work. Third one said, we'll hire you about the time ESPN 5 hits the air. And they checked the middle box. In the meantime, I don't know this is going on, but Keith is about to leave ESPN 2 and go to ESPN 1 again. Yeah. And it all just kind of worked out. I was in front of them, and they're like, fuck it, the guy bugs us so much, let's just hire this bastard,
And obviously, they were right to hire you because you went on to have an unbelievably career there. My story is completely different. Like, I never sent ESPN a tape. I never sent them now it's a link. You actually had to send a frickin' VHS tape in the mail, Yep. Yeah, I never did that. I got a call one day. I was working in St. Louis. I'd been there less than 6 months. I was coming back from a stellar interview of a high school sprinter who just run the fastest 400 for a 10th grader in the city of St. Louis. Real riveting stuff.
I like that. Hey, before you get to continue, just while you bring that up, Tom McCollum, our good friend who I worked with on all the main events forever, his daughter is going to be big time. She's a miler. She was the fastest. She beat all the seniors as a freshman. Then she won a national title.
I still think of Tom as a freshman, so that's problematic for me.
Yeah, no, because he's thin and can run. But I just want to get her notice. Right. But yeah, go back. So they noticed you by accident.
Somebody had sent them a tape. I don't know how. And I got a note. Remember those old Post-it notes that said, "Hey, so and so called."
Oh, sure.
Instead of there was no voicemail, or we didn't have cell phones or anything like that. So I got a call. I said, "Hey, call Al Jaffe," and it says 203. Now I'm from Connecticut, so I knew at that point that the entire state of Connecticut's area code was 203 at that time. So I'm like, who is calling me from Connecticut that I don't know? And I'm looking at this name, Al Jaffe. How do I know this name? And then it dawned, oh my God, this is the frickin' guy that you need to get into the door at ESPN. Like, holy shit.
That's amazing. So they recruited you based on seeing you in a different tape.
Correct. So then I call him, and he's like, hey, we want to bring you up, and you'll love this. I don't think I've even told you this story. We're starting this thing called ESPN 2, and we want to know if you want to be a part of it. And I'm like, yes. Like, yeah, what do you need? Well, we need you to come up audition. And they said, but are you under contract? And I'm like, yeah, I'm under contract at my station, but I'm like the fill-in guy. They're like, well, we need your station to approve you coming up for an interview because that's tortious interference with a contract, blah, blah. I'm like, wow. Oh, no problem. So I go up to my general manager and said, hey, ESPN, whatever, I'm from Connecticut. I'd like to go home and audition for this. And they were like, no. Because if we do it for you, we have to do it for everybody. I was like, come on, man. So I had to wait. I said, I can't go. And then they called again when they started ESPN News, and I was just like, screw it. I'm going. I'm not even telling them. And then that's how I got the offer. But the other thing that was so crazy about those days back at ESPN, and I think it's still the same, is you remember at the end of the year or the beginning of the year, they came out with the seniority list for vacations, when you could take your vacations. Like, you've been there so long, you get this much time, so long, you get this much time. But it was all done on seniority. Like, the people that were there, and frickin' Boomer and Bob Lee were always at the top of the list. I'll choose Christmas, Thanksgiving, July 4th, every legal holiday, and the entire month of August. Like that's what they got to choose from. And then when it got to us, okay, you have 3 days in November and an April 3rd. Those are your choices. Fine, I will take those. So every year when the vacation list came out, I looked at it to see if I had been there in 92, who would I be ahead of seniority-wise so I could pick the better vacations? And it pissed me off every year. Every year.
That's pretty funny. But I think the stories of getting there are way more interesting. I mean, not that there weren't really crazy fun things that we did, and there's a million stories there too, but the struggle to get there or the detours you took. Like, I got brought back for 3 different interviews, And I always did pretty well, like on the tryout part, and they knew that, you know, I was okay writer and all that. But they didn't think I was sports nerdy enough, right? Like I wasn't the guy, like you're way better than me at, you know, quickly like, oh, that's the backup tight end for Carolina, don't quiz me, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. But I know how to make a show. Like that's all that really matters is can you do a show that you only have to make people believe for an hour. It doesn't matter. So I remember my final try, and I just said, fuck it. I'm going to say what I got to say and see if it works because I want this job. I want to get hired. This is the third time they've flown me back. They still haven't hired me. And Vince Doria, again, my favorite boss. I said, Vince, I already know the book on me. I already know what you guys, you know, why I haven't been hired over these 3 or 4 years. I said, look, I still don't know who the 5th pitcher on the Cubs is, and I don't care. But if you tell me to do a story on the son of a bitch, it'll be one of the better stories you have in the building. And he's like, that's a good answer.
Yeah. Vince was sane. Vince was rational, and he was.
I still lean on. I've more than once since I left been on a project and leaned on Vince for guidance. Like, hey, how would you handle that? You know, like he's still a mentor to me and a friend, and he's down in Florida most of the time. But what a great guy.
Absolutely. In fact, I still text him about stuff away from the business. Just say, hey, what do you think about this?
Sure.
You know what I mean? Because that's the kind of guy Vince Doria was and is. He's awesome. But now, if there's a polar opposite to Vince, hey, how are you? A couple of things. 2149. You need to tell the tray of meats teas story because this is the greatest story in the history of ESPN. And I don't care what anyone else says. I know it's true. And it didn't involve me at all. It involved the people that I worked with, like you and our former CP, Jim Bowden. But it predated me, and it's still the greatest story I've ever heard in my life.
I remember the whole thing vividly because we were doing the 1 a.m. at the time or the 2, whichever it was. And it was just one of those weird nights. It was late in the NBA season.
I think was it the All-Star break? I think it was the All-Star break, right?
No,
there were no games.
No, it was more like the reason why I know it was what it was. The Clippers weren't very good for a long time, right? Yes. The basketball team, and we were always doing that. Who's going to make the playoffs? You know, who's going to bump in at number 8 or whatever, right? And our show was so bad that night. There was such a dearth of good material. I think there weren't very many baseball games.
There was nothing going on. There was nothing going on.
April, right before the NBA playoffs start. And our lead story was going to be the Clippers. And after that, it was a big, the next story was terrible. Like we had a reader, you know, from the New Jersey Bergen Record or something, you know. And so Andy Tennant, who would then later go on, who's a really high-level producer now, like does all sorts of big-time stuff, as far as I know. And he's the young PA, the cool kid, you know, that cuts and this is back when we did the opening tease that was like 2 minutes long. Coming up on SportsCenter, will the Mariners continue their hot streak? You know, that kind of thing, right?
By the way, just so people understand, before you continue, they thought the tease was the most important thing. We had a whole thing called the TBU, the tease and bump unit. Yeah. And the whole point was you got to sell what's in the show on this tease so they'll watch. And then when we go to commercial, you have to make the bump a question or a controversy so we can retain viewership for another 37 seconds.
Yeah. I always fought against that. I always said, why are we lying to people on these bumps and teases? Why don't we just do a good show? Yeah. How about good show is our only priority? And if we do a good show, people who watched it will go, that was good. I want to see that the next time those two idiots are, right? Like, that's the best way to win.
So the reason I interjected that is
because you'll never guess what Cam Newton said. You know, like,
exactly.
No, I can guess. I can make some guesses on that.
So they thought the tease was like the Rosetta Stone, the holy grail.
Right. We had to get you into the we had to lie.
Yeah.
We had to dangle. So I'm in charge of writing the tease that night. Yeah. And I get Andy Tennant, and he's going to cut it. And I wrote the most ludicrous, the dumbest tease, the anti-tease, right? Yeah. Coming up. I mean, basically what we did is, our show's not very good. Here are things that you also won't see in the show. That was kind of like the premise. We had a Michael Jackson clip. We showed the president of ESPN. Yeah. Was it Bornstein at the time?
It was Bornstein. It was Steve Bornstein, yeah.
And we showed a conveyor belt of meat from like 1950s archival film, you know, like those old industrial. We showed so many stupid things that won't be in the show. and then turned it to, but we will have the Clippers going for the playoffs. So this, like we brought it back, right?
But you put in the president because the line was he wanted us to take risks.
Yes, I forgot about that.
What it was.
Yes, that's true. So all these things that were in this tease that were never before seen in any other tease, just the all-time anti-tease. And Andy's like, "Are you sure?" "Yeah, man, let's go. Let's do this." So we had to convince Jim Bowden, who you referred to, I believe was working in golf industry down in South Carolina last I checked, somewhere like that.
Good for him, man. Jim was a good guy.
Last time I talked to him, he sounded happy and was I could be wrong, but I thought it was South Carolina. And so Jim is the CP, the coordinating producer, and it's up. Right. He's the last line of defense, right? If he says it's good, it's good. If he objects, we can't do it. So we sweet talk him into it. I think you were cheerleading. Yeah, this is funny. Let's do it. And we run it, and it's out there. We thought it was funny. We giggled, and then we did a show. And the next day, you can take it from here.
I believe Jim gets called into Norby Williamson's office, right, about that tease.
Yeah.
And basically, you could have said a million things, like, hey, that's not what really we're going for. This isn't the thing. Instead, I believe what he said was, hey, I have a better idea. Instead of running that tease, why didn't you take a gun and shoot yourself in the fucking head?
I wasn't there for the meeting, but that is what was heard on the street later.
Oh, my
I don't
God.
know. I thought, I think.
Over a tease, man. Over a frickin' tease.
Yeah. But I think the people who did it, and there's nothing wrong with the people who did it. There were conventional shows and there were less conventional shows. And I think it's like when you book a comic and you know his other shows, you kind of, okay, well, that's kind of what we're going to get. We're going to get that,
Yeah. It was.
So we did what we did.
That was that forever. It goes down. People on campus. It's the Tray of Meats show. Is what it is. The Tray of Meats show. It has a name. I see Andy, it's outlasted all of us. So it's in history.
As keep talking, I'm going to text Andy because I'll forget to do it because I'm old. I forget things more than I used to. You know what I mean?
Talking about.
And did I put my cell phone in the refrigerator? I don't know where it could be in there. Where is it in the fruit section or did I put it up with the milk? Coconut.
Do you
milk.
have
Andy Tennant?
Yeah.
We just spoke about you on Trey's show, and the Tray of Meat tease is forever.
It's forever that and soccer breakdown. In 3, 2, 1.
That's one of the all-timers. Gary Miller, who I saw at Chris Berman's birthday party, 70.
Yeah.
Gary Miller, this is the World Cup of 1994.
Yeah.
And Gary Miller is called in. There were what we called, we're not trying to talk down. Like some of it's kind of inside terminology. Too many times in football, by the way, they're doing that too, right? Yeah. Just say they're in zone defense. You don't need to give it a name because a lot of teams have different names for the same thing anyway. That's just a side note. But we had what was called a home cook package. So that was not that we sent a reporter to the field to do a story and stand up. This was inside the building where to grab a bunch of file tape and write a 3-minute story. It's a home cook,
correct?
Right?
It was about the 94
Somebody did a
World
home
Cup.
cook about 94 World Cup. Somebody, a PA, writes a home cook about all the different players, and you got to get to know the Brazilian team, and you got to get to know the Portuguese, whatever. And Gary Miller is handed the script. He's never seen it before. He walks in the audio booth, and he can't pronounce anybody's name. Rigobert Bongyong-song.
Gianluca Pagliuca, the Italian goalkeeper. He messed that name up 17 times.
How about Bebeto? But
the red card has become the calling card.
I believe it's on the internet. I believe it is possible to view.
I think Dan ran it on his show once, some of the tracks. So you can Google.
I saw that. I saw that.
You can YouTube it. The soccer breakdown 3, 2, 1, and
soccer breakdown in 3, 2, 1. Rigobert Bongyong-song, the motherfucker. It's really, really funny.
It's hilarious. So, we would play that all the time just to make ourselves feel better about us screwing up.
Well, when we were doing the overnight and it was time and we're getting silly and people are just hanging on, some audio guy would just hit the button, Rigobert Bongyong's. So some years later, I can't remember how long later, I was doing a show and, they bring tour groups in and it turned out it was the U.S. national soccer team that was coming through. And I just, guys, play it. And
Yeah.
people were worried, are they going to take offense? Because it's
No.
it's not really making fun of anything. It's just a guy
Yeah.
screwing up in the audio room, which we all did. And
Yeah.
they loved it. They
Yeah.
died. Here's what we're going to do. I'm still going. I'm here for as long as you want, but I should have charged better. I'm going to go in the kitchen now.
Don't
There
worry.
might be a plumber.
We need to wrap
No,
this thing up anyway.
I say go live. Keep the thing
No.
rolling because you might see our new kitten. You
Okay.
might see
Well,
our new
keep going.
kitten.
Keep
His name
going
is
as we
Winston.
transfer. Keep going as we transfer.
Yeah.
But
Gotta
so
have my
do you
phone.
have
Gotta have
do
my
you have a
wallet.
favorite like screw up that you did?
Oh,
that-
almost went down.
Oh
What?
God! Don't hurt
Do I
yourself.
have a what?
A favorite screw up? Like I can't believe I said that on the air.
You know what? The good thing for me, I never accidentally swore on the air. That was always my fear. What if it just comes out? You know?
Yeah.
Oh,
I did
man,
that in Binghamton,
you know,
New York. That was bad.
I would say my number one screw up would have been hockey was not my best sport. And I like the Kraken, go Kraken. I've been to games. I've been to other games, and it's a great sport. I just don't know that much about it, right? I didn't
Correct.
grow up with hockey. I grew up playing football. Grew up with all the other ones, and so when you would get a hockey shot sheet at the last minute, shot sheet being the little notes, to call your highlight.
They tell
and
you,
sometimes
yeah.
the game just ended. You're on the set, and here comes the kid running in, and there's like
10
30
seconds in before
you're like,
10 seconds. You've never seen it. It's 10 seconds in. They hand you the shot sheet. You got to just take it and go with it.
Yeah. So I'd say the all-timer in that neighborhood would be when Bill Pito called in for whatever reason, probably black ice. He didn't want to drive that night. And he was really terrified about black ice. He'd warn us about the weather all the time.
Yeah.
So Bill was doing the NHL Tonight on ESPN too. I did RPM Tonight, the car racing show, and Stewart, the NBA show, and Reese Davis, right? So I'm doing the hockey show, and they gave me a shot sheet, but they had cut two tapes. One was the short, the 38-second, and the other was the 3-minute 54-second.
Oh no!
You can guess what happened. They gave me the short sheet,
and
and the game's still going.
Oh no!
And I thank God, Barry Melrose, God bless. I hope he's doing well. He's had some health things, but I hope he's doing well. Barry's next to me, and Barry was amazing, still is. But he didn't need shot sheets. He just knew every player in the league, right?
Yeah.
So I was quick enough to think, Barry, you've always wanted to call a highlight. And I left the studio. I walked out into the hall and got water. I could still hear the highlight in my ear because I wanted no part of it. I got smarter the way to do it when you lack knowledge or information. And I learned this when I did the Olympics for Peacock.
Yeah.
If there's 9 names before the goal, that would be too many players. But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Maybe one guy touched the puck twice.
Right.
Don't say all the names. You say things like, look at the great passing by the Canucks.
Yeah.
And then you make sure you know the name of the bastard who scored the goal, and you get that right. Minimize, Vince Doria taught me this, minimize what you say, but be correct with what you say. And that really is a smart tool in a lot of other circumstances.
It is.
I think on the Olympics, it was the Romanian team handball team.
I mean, who doesn't have that?
And I just said,
Pat.
These Romanians don't like to be cited individually. They are team players. That's why they play team handball. Look at that goal.
So my biggest screw up was I just gotten on to like my first or second overnight sports center, so it was a big deal. And it was when John Daly was going back to the Players Championship. The year before, he'd gotten hammered, missed his tee time, tore up his hotel room, all this kind of stuff. And it was his first attempt at trying to be sober and get back. So I wrote this poignant lead-in. I was convinced I was going to win some sort of Peabody Award for this, that it was a year ago that John Daly's life fell apart, but he got himself back on track. He's gotten clean, and right before he teed off for his first round, he received the coin signifying 6 months of being sober. But instead of saying 6 months of being sober, I wrote it in the clumsiest way. I said it received a coin signifying 6 months of alcohol-free living, which is the stupidest way you could say it, right? It's just dumb. And for whatever reason, it came out of my mouth on camera right before he teed off, he received this coin signifying 6 months of free alcohol. And the blood just rushed out of my face. And in my ear, I hear the CP say, yeah, we're going to need to fix that for the rear. It's just, I thought my career was over. I thought my career was over in like my second show.
You know, what I do remember, I didn't, you got nervous sometimes, especially in the early years. I wasn't as good early as I was late, right? I mean, that's kind of first day, you're not as good as your second day. But, when you knew a serious story was coming up where there was a crime or a death or, something, and you had to lock up, say those words correctly. And that's usually your worst performance, right?
Correct.
I remember a fix I was forced into. This was when I used to live in Seattle. Well, I lived in Seattle, went to Connecticut, went to Seattle, back in Connecticut. Long story.
Yes.
But when I used to do the LA sports centers with either Neil or Stan, right?
Yeah. I'd
go to LA and hang out for a week and do these sports centers. So UNLV, who, by the way, as we tape this, hopefully when you air this, they're 4-0. I think they will be out at Miami of Ohio, I believe, having a good season. And UNLV, this is many years ago, made a bowl game. And that was something all by itself. First bowl game since Randall, probably. What the hell was it? The Texas something bowl. They all have funny names, whatever it was called.
Of course.
And there was a play, and I got to look it up because it's one of those super weird. There's certain football rules, and you and I both think we know football, but sometimes stuff happens. Like a lot of people don't know about the fair catch, free kick. I've known about that all my life. But there's weird things like that, right? Yeah. So I don't know what the hell the rule was. It was some weird thing, and I had about 11 seconds to explain why that was ruled that way. The official rule states blah, blah, blah. Instead, I decided to say that's legal in the same way prostitution is legal in some Nevada counties, but not all. I thought, and it's true, it's not legal in Clark County. It's legal in the other outlying counties. And they didn't think that was funny, but I did. And I said, it's totally relevant. We're talking about a Las Vegas team, and I'm giving you a practical, metaphor. And I didn't say everyone go get a prostitute. I said, I just said what I said. But you can't say prostitution. Like, why? I just did. You can, because I just did.
I just did it. So anyway, real quickly, because I do sort of have to wrap this up because I got.
What do you mean?
Hold
How come
on.
We haven't even promoted my damn show.
That's what I'm saying. It is now time to shamelessly promote your show. We
Let's
need a
go.
fourth. Tell me all about it.
Do it. So, way back when, I won't bore you with the whole story, but Smartless people contacted Smartless. Jason Bateman, Will Arnett, Sean Hayes. They have this very popular podcast, right? And they bring on a guest and they just screw around and talk. And they were going to diversify and add more shows kind of under their umbrella. So they came to me wanting me, essentially, it was going to look bad for the New York Knicks if I did this, right? I was going to criticize, the long years. And they had a great season, by the way. I'm happy for the Knicks. And I was like, I can't do that because I have a deal with Caesars. You and I were working there. Right. And I can't jeopardize that to do a one-show thing. So it was like, all right, let's, circle back, I think is the terminology in the industry. And they didn't circle back. I decided I would circle it back. So I just, one day, hey, remember we were going to do a bunch of something? What was that going to be? And we just started kicking around what could a show be? And we all landed on golf for some reason. I love golf. I'm not very good. And it took a while. Things don't always work as fast as you want. But they ended up landing Brian Baumgartner, that is Kevin from The Office, and Cooper Manning, who I like to say is the more intelligent and sensual of the Mannings.
Correct.
I always give him a little hype.
He's
and we just started doing it. And the first time we met in person together was in Scotland for that thing we talked about off the top, which was amazing. And we've been taping and taping. We got Michelle Wee coming up. Again, I don't know when you're airing this, but she's our next guest as we speak. We had Jason Bateman, Will Arnett. We're getting comedians. We're going to get some real golfers, Ernie Els. Who else? Bobby Flay's agreed. Like, we want people who either have a love of golf and they have a strong suit elsewhere, like Bobby's a leading chef, right? Or a real golfer. And just, it's nothing more than guys and girls talking about why we love golf and hate golf. Same conversation you and I have all the time. I love and hate the game.
at the
It
same
makes
time.
you so angry when you can't. But I'm not a club throwing angry. I kind of just laugh at myself and say something stupid and go to the next hole. That's all you can do.
Right. Well, listen, you can get it wherever you get your podcast. And real quickly, I also want shout out for your Run Freely thing. Tell us about it because people see you sometimes
Yeah.
on the internet putting with that thing on your foot from when you broke your ankle, shattered
Yes.
it playing quarterback at UNLV, and you have done a really good job helping veterans with this thing. So tell people about that.
Yeah, it's really simple. Remember, Run Freely. That's RUNFREELY. Runfreely.org. Runfreely.org, and that just tells the whole story. I wrecked my ankle in 1980. Now that's 45 years ago, and every year it got worse. I was in such a state I almost considered cutting it off. I'm not kidding.
You couldn't wear
But I
shoes
got
sometimes on the set because it hurt your ankle so much. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. I wear flip flops or my leg brace. If I go to a funeral or a wedding, I might wear black tennis shoes and suffer for it. I just can't wear shoes. But this device is amazing, and it changes your life overnight. And we raise money every time we raise a certain amount. I call my guy in Gig Harbor, Washington, and I say, "All right, next guy's up or next girl." And we've helped about 60 veterans get back into life pain free, and it's a pretty cool, fun thing to do.
It is, and you're a pretty cool, fun guy to hang out with. I love you, buddy, and thanks for doing this. And let's tee it up and get mad at ourselves playing golf real soon.
I love it. Thanks for having me.
There is no way to explain Kenny Mayne. You just have to experience him. And that was a lot of fun, and I hope it was fun for you. If you like this show, and if you like the shows we've done on Straight Facts Homie, real simple. Click the like and subscribe button, and we'll keep doing it. If not, we'll slowly fade away into ether, and we don't want to do that. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time on Straight Facts Homie.